What size is your bee hole? So I bet you never thought anyone would use science to talk about your bee hole size. Well, that's what I'm going to do. And of course, I'm talking about the bee hole in your beehive. In my last video, the issue of the bee hole came up. People were saying, well, why don't you have a landing, or they call it a runway, or we call it a landing board. Before I got my bees, I had about a year's worth of wait. The reason is that I wanted them, I built the hive, and then I realized that I missed the window to actually order the package of bees. I wasn't aware of the deadlines. So anyway, it was the next spring before I actually got my bees. All that time I was doing research on bees because I wanted to understand them. And one of the things I learned was that in the wild, or even in those cutouts, those hive removals, you'll never see a big gaping hole where the bees enter the hive. You always see either a little slot, it's going up under a piece of siding or something. There's always a little hole, right? The reason for that is because they need to be able to protect that entrance. They also want to limit the size of that opening because that also limits what size critters can come in after them. Mice, birds, whatever. Big hornets, Japanese flying dragon hornets, whatever they are. The other thing is that people were talking about how crowded it was, which is directly, obviously related to the size of the hole. But I want to show you here why the hole size matters more for a longer period of time than just one part of the day. So what I have here is a graph, and this represents the percent of bees at the hole. Now this is not percentage of bees of the entire hive. This is the percent of bees that are foraging. Okay, so you may have 30,000 bees in a hive, a colony, or maybe only 10,000 or 5,000 are actually foraging. Right, so anyway, this is the percentage of bees from 0% to 100 that would be at the hole. Okay, this is the time of day, and this is a rough scale, right? I just hand drew this out, just roughly put, the hours of the day here. But what you find is that bees are pretty inactive in the morning, and they're very active in the afternoon. So they're going and coming, right? And you can draw this curve really several different ways. But the best way I came up with it was this, where we have a gradual increase over time. You'll have a gradual increase, and then there'll be a period of time where it will sort of level off, and then obviously start diving back down towards the end of the day. So you can see where a lot of the day, and this doesn't even represent the entire day, if I were to have this represent the entire day, this would be a much shorter, it would be more of a spike like that. So you can see where there's a small window of time when you're going to have bees coming and going all the time. But what you will have 100% of the time is a hole there that critters can get through. So most of the time of the day, you would be allowing access to that hive. Now this may seem fundamental, and it is fundamental to a beekeeper, but I get this question all the time. You'll notice that on my video, you'll see a block of wood that is around the first hole. Well, my first hole was too big. I think it was like 1.25 inches. Well, I think I narrowed it down to 3/4 or 7/8, and I put that block of wood over it because I felt like the hole was too big. So, and the fact that the hive is doing well is an indication that the hole is not that bad. Now, in the spring, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add frames because the hive will already have been established. For those who haven't watched my videos up to this point, in May, I started the hive from scratch. okay? So there was very few bees in there, maybe 10,000, 10, 15,000. And so now we're up to maybe 30,000 bees. So in the spring, I'll have to add frames and another hole, whereas now I have this configuration. See if I can draw this, you can see it. You know, right now I've got frames in the first part of the hive, and this is all open. In the spring, I'll start adding, and by the end of that summer, I should have, you know, maybe a couple of frames of honey I can harvest. But all the honey that they've made up to this point, which is not a lot actually, that I'll leave in there for winter. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this idea that somehow top bar hives or the horizontal configuration that I have is not natural. So again, I'm not claiming to be a bee hole expert, okay? I just I did do a little bit of homework and research. That doesn't mean that it is correct or that I will be successful with it. My hope is that my bees are successful, because I don't want to kill them, and that they will thrive. And then in the next spring, hopefully they will make it through the winter, and then next spring they can start to grow and become a huge colony and take up the entire hive. That'd be great, because what I'd like to do is split them off at some point and rebuild my original hive that I had an external feeder on, that I abandoned when I realized that the external feeder was not the best thing. And you see, I am learning and I am researching, and as I learn, I make changes. So now I use an internal feeder. The ants and other insects can't get to that. They have to go through the bees to get to it, and they don't want to do that. They're not as brave as, I have found ants are not as brave as hive beetles. Hive beetles are like little tanks. They're like little German tanks. They have that hard outer shell, and the best the bees can do is herd them into little corners. They can't destroy them. So anyway, I hope you've learned as much as I have about bee holes, and put your comments below. I'm anxious to see them. Trust me. Thanks, guys. Nice.